The next speaker will be Jocelyn Boor, who is a registered music therapist. She has her Bachelor of Arts in Music Therapy from the University of Wisconsin at Milwaukee, her internship at Essex County Hospital Center in Cedar Grove, New Jersey, and she's presently music therapist at the Milwaukee Protestant Home for the Aged, and also the activities director at Blue Mound Manor Nursing Home in the same area. And she's also active in professional performing groups. I talked to her. She's quite a musician. She's does voice, guitar, flute, recorder, French horn, piano, and something else that I've forgotten. And maybe, and then there's other things that she says she fakes as well, which is, we haven't heard her at all, so we don't know, but she does want to point out that the field of music therapy is relatively new and unfamiliar to some people, both in the medical profession and in the musical field. And she's going to talk a little bit about that. And also there's in case I don't get a chance to mention this afterward, she wants me to announce that there are 4 Baha'is here who are either working in or interested in music therapy, and this is by far the most Baha'is in this field she's ever been able to contact in one time and place, and it does suggest the future role of Kasbuf that's dimly emerging, and that is to have professional allied groups, specialty groups of various sorts, of a wide variety, that will be associated with or chartered by or registered with the association. But anyway, I'll turn it over to Jocelyn.
About faking on instruments, that was part of my training as a music therapist. I had to take fundamentals in nearly every instrument you could think of and be able to play at least 3 scales and fake on it. There's not much call for it, so I've lost most of it. But I imagine if I had to, I could pick it up again. My paper is really a brief introduction to music therapy, and I hope to have more time for questions, because that's what I usually get is, what is music therapy? What do you do and how do you do it? So I'll just read it through, and then if you feel inspired to ask any questions, feel free to do so. In our present society, spiritual, physical, and mental illnesses afflict many people. The medical field is increasing its knowledge of physical and mental diseases and methods of healing, often utilizing adjunctive therapies. Music therapy is one of these. I will briefly discuss the influence of music, a definition of music therapy, some of its uses with the aged, and an overall relationship to the teachings of the Baha'i faith. Music, according to E. Thayer Gaston in Music and Therapy, has 3 basic areas of influence upon a human being. These are psychological, sociological, and physiological. Psychologically, music reflects, influences, and reinforces behaviors and emotions. As Abdu'l-Baha wrote, in short, musical melodies form an important role in the associations or outward and inward characteristics or qualities of man, for it is the inspirer or motive power of both the immaterial and spiritual susceptibilities. At present, the chaotic state of music, both popular and serious, reflects the prevalent view of man as an animal, and the hopeless acceptance of this by many people. Accompanying negative behavior, such as the abandonment of moral standards, are reinforced. The resultant effect upon the individual is degrading, and this contradicts the teachings of Baha'u'llah. He wrote, O son of spirit, noble have I created thee, yet thou hast abased thyself. Rise then unto that for which thou wast created. This negative usage is continued in the sociological area. For example, music is used to support attitudes and behaviors derisive of family life. It has been used in recent times to arouse war protests, extol the use of mind-altering drugs, and encourage discrimination of all kinds. Ideally, however, music can enrich the quality of life, enhance and encourage social interaction, and serve as an important facet of worship. This latter use is emphasized in the Bahá'í teachings. About the current trend to use music deceptively to pursue the abasement of man and the destruction of social order, Baha'u'llah wrote, "We have made music a ladder by which souls may ascend to the realm on high. Change it not into wings for self and passion." In the physiological area, music, both melody and rhythm, affects body functions and stimulates both brain activity and the senses. Extensive research is being done in this field. The three areas of musical influence are dependent and interact with each other. It should also be stressed that current music is torn, like the world it is a part of, between constructive and destructive forces. The music therapist must use it constructively. Music therapy has been defined by Muscatelig as, quote, the use of specifically prescribed music activities conducted by qualified personnel to achieve a definite therapeutic goal. This definition contains several key elements. First, that music therapy is specifically prescribed. This is done by a physician who has decided to include it as part of an overall treatment plan. The music therapist accepts the responsibility to work with the physician to effect a cure, if possible, and a wide range of physical and mental illnesses can be partially treated with music therapy. Conducted by qualified personnel is the next component, and this is probably an area I'm qualified to speak on. I come from one of the most strict music therapy training programs in the United States. It's so strict that out of 5 years of schooling in the field, I only had 3 credits to choose in an area of my own choice. Everything else was totally planned, and this is very unusual in American colleges to be so totally planned. All registered music therapists, known as RMTs, have completed a rigorous college program and an internship, which is full-time for 6 months in a facility under the supervision of at least 2 other music therapists. And after all that, you get your registration. The curriculum includes many courses in psychology, sociology, anatomy, as well as music therapy, music theory, performance, and music history. The RMT is made aware of the impact of music and is trained how to use it for a client's well-being. A Bahá'í in this profession should also be knowledgeable about the writings that refer to music, health, and healing, and adhere to the teachings of Baha'u'llah. He must recognize the nobility and the spiritual nature of man, and let this direct his work. The standards Baha'u'llah set for physicians should also apply to music therapists as to any practitioner in the health field. The last important element is to achieve a definite therapeutic goal. Generally, goals in music therapy are designed to achieve or maintain a positive change in the individual. Consultation with the physician and client, if possible, is needed to help set a goal that can be successfully accomplished. You never set a goal that's impossible for the client to reach. That would be defeating the entire purpose of the therapy. It has to be, even if it's something as simple as being able to button the shirt, that should be the major goal that you work on. If they cannot achieve the goal, you are defeating yourself and the therapy. All of this is done in a non-threatening manner through the universal appeal and flexibility of music. The creative freedom involved for both the client and the therapist prevents the standardization of music activities for specific illnesses. The task of a music therapist, therefore, is to utilize the medium of music as an aid for achieving a maximum degree of well-being of the body, mind, and soul. In institutions for the aged, such as a nursing home, music therapy contributes to the quality of life in the 3 areas of influence I mentioned previously. It also functions as a channel of spiritual growth for everyone involved. Goals are generally based on this, and they focus on several areas. These include the maintenance and redevelopment of cognitive faculties, social skills, and independence, and the acknowledgement or acceptance of loss and death. Activities for these goals range from listening to learning to play an instrument. It can be done in individual visits and groups of almost any size, though I've never worked with a group this large. Thank goodness. The most popular music group activity with the elderly, at least that I have observed, seems to be the sing-along. Everyone can become involved on some level of singing, listening, or conversing, and the pleasure of familiar songs is emphasized as the medium. There's a lot of joy in singing songs you grew up with or that you heard when you were going through your courtship, and the memories it brings back and the conversation it brings out is so important for them in going over their life and maintaining their social skills and their independence. I can't emphasize it enough that one of the things I primarily use as a music therapist is music people are familiar with. You don't force music on them they don't like or have no interest in. This is unnecessarily cruel, and once again, it will defeat your purpose. However, it is in the area of loss and death that emotional, mental, and spiritual growth is often achieved through the use of music. This is based on my observations and work with the elderly in the last 4 years. First is the acknowledgement and acceptance of the physical and mental changes associated with aging. These can be and often are traumatic. Music can be used to start and guide a discussion about the changes, to ventilate feelings, whether it be grief, anger, humor about these changes, and has a stabilizing factor that the music is still there, that you are still here, that you can still continue. At the same time, the loss through death of family and friends is occurring. An additional loss is the change in society. Grief is often expressed through music, usually in a request for the deceased's favorite song, singing together a reassuring hymn, or a tune from the good old days. The conversations that follow require listening and patience from the music therapist, along with feedback. Memories and feelings are repeatedly talked about until the loss is integrated into the self. It is during the integration process that the aged person begins to think of his own death. At this stage, favorite music is requested more often because I might not be here next week. And several people I'm working with now are at that stage, and when they found I was going away for a week, I had to sit down with each and go through their favorite songs because they said, I might not be here when you get back. I might be gone. When the reality of death is completely accepted, music seems to spark conversations about what happens to the soul. Usually, this is accompanied by repeated cheerful statements about being ready to go and trusting God. At this point, music becomes pure pleasure. It reflects, reinforces, and eases a transition of death if the therapist accepts it also. This attitude is not to be confused with suicidal views. They're just waiting out their time, and they're prepared to go whenever God decides to call them. Baha'u'llah wrote, and I've used this quote often with the patients I work with, even though I'm in a Protestant nursing home. They seem to like this particular hidden word. O Son of the Supreme, I have made death a messenger of joy to thee. Wherefore dost thou grieve? I made the light to shed on thee its splendor. Why dost thou veil thyself therefrom? This view is confirmed for both the client and therapist. The sorrow of loss does not become easier, but better understood and accepted. Sharing this assurance and understanding is an invaluable therapeutic achievement with the elderly. Negative impact is minimized, if not eradicated completely. The music therapist, through the application of Bahá'í teachings, can provide a significant measure of relief, reassurance, and even joy. In conclusion, I'd like to say that music therapy is both ancient, if you think of the example of David playing his harp for King Saul in the Old Testament, and new. The potential for its use is not fully realized at this time. Continued research and development as mankind matures will bring many possibilities, I'm sure, to view and reality. Music therapy has and will work with and celebrate the uniqueness of each human being. Thank you.